part of its mandate of driving financial inclusion in Nigeria, EFINA, a financial sector development organization based in Nigeria, hosted stakeholders to the presentation of its Access to Financial Services survey. Giving the opening remarks, the chairman of the board of EFINA, Mr. Segun Akerele, said the survey provided key insights into the use and demand of financial services in Nigeria.
It always produces key insights in respect of the use and demand for financial services in Nigeria. There will be a trend that you will see today from the data. We think that the trend shows the resilience of ordinary Nigerians. There's been, the economy has been hard. We know that we are coming out of a recession, but the recovery is slow.
Mr. Oluseyi Oladejo of Ipsos shared some features of the process deployed to carry out the 2018 EFINA A2F survey.
We use what we call Ipsos iFeed. It's an app that helps us to be able to manage the feed operations from our phone. So what this does is efficient feed management. It captures the information about the interviewers, it captures the information about the respondents, it also captures the information about the location where the interview is being conducted. In terms of trainings of the interviewers, the training were also conducted in each of the regions to ensure that each region have access to sufficient training. So we conducted about 8 days training for each of the interviews in each particular regions. So we've started with Lagos, moving to Kano regions, Bauchi and Enugu, which are central training to ensure that every staff that work on this project are properly trained in terms of sampling approach, in terms of the administration of the questionnaire, in terms of quality controls that they need to follow. So they were properly trained for complete 8 days. And all the partners were also involved in the training. The MBS, the EFINA team, and the FMT teams were part of the training. In terms of quality control, we actually have 2 layers of quality control that we place on this study. The first one is what we call the in-feed quality control. The in-feed quality control has to do with our quality control officer monitoring every feed teams in the enumeration area to check the consistency of the administration of the questionnaire, to check the sampling approach is being followed, and to also check that the quality of the responses we are getting from the respondents are logical and consistent with what we know.
Giving an overview of the survey, Mr. Yemi Adeniran from the National Bureau of Statistics said, based on the sample design for the Access to Financial Services survey, there was high confidence and reliability on the results from the report.
Training of feed personnel started from 30th of July from Southwest and ended on 13th of September 2018 in South-South and Southeast. The Ipsos have given us details of how the training were conducted. We also look at data collection timetable. That's the next slide. Data collection was done from 11th of August, starting from Southwest, where the training was first conducted, and then ended in Southeast, as has been said by Ipsos, by 17th of September. After the data collection, what MBS is interested in is the sample achieved, so that we know that what we have earmarked or selected to be covered, how much of it were you able to cover? Because that's also determine the quality of the estimation that they are going to be doing. So the sample achieved, out of the 27,000 750 households selected to be covered. Ipsos, we are able to cover 27,470 households, or adults, because we have one adult per each of the households. And this gives us a response rate of 99%, almost 100%, which is a very, very good achievement in the sample size. This again is telling us that any analysis, any estimation that you are seeing from the results to be presented is highly of quality and is representative of what is on the ground throughout the country.
Former acting governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Dr. Sarah Alade, said the survey will provide stakeholders with pragmatic solutions to address the issues in financial inclusion.
We need to take advantage of the findings that come from various empirical research. It is our task to ensure that financial inclusion empowers individual families and small businesses. Most importantly, we must ensure that impoverished communities are empowered and strengthened through a well-functioning financial system that will have positive impact on our collective development.
Highlights of the event was the formal presentation of the key findings from the survey.
We know that financial inclusion is mainly urban skewed, so we are advocating for more interventions in rural areas, and we've seen that over the past 2 years. And so it's not surprising that we're seeing a 6.6% decline in exclusion rates among the rural population. So interventions still need to go further into the rural areas, because you can see the huge difference of about 20% between urban and rural. But we're also happy to see that the urban exclusion rate, which is currently at 21.6, is very close to achieving the financial exclusion target of 20% by 2020. We then moved to geopolitical zones. From 2016, we had the Northwest and the Northeast as the geopolitical areas with the highest level of exclusion. That still remains, but there are heavy declines in the exclusion rate in those areas. We see an 8% decline in Northwest, also decline about 7% in the Northeast. But just to point out that we have the Southwest, which has already achieved the 20% exclusion target set by the NFIS strategy. So good figures across all regions. As already mentioned by the NBS, for the first time, we're actually able to disseminate robust financial data at the state level. So we're going to break this down further quickly, just so we can see the numbers. So for the Northwest zone, we have Kano, Jigawa, and Katsina as the states that are actually driving exclusion rate in the Northwest, because they have exclusion rates that are above the regional average. Northeast, we have Gombe, Bauchi, and Yobe. So Gombe is actually the highest level, so across all states, Gombe actually shows the highest level of financial exclusion. North Central, we have Nasarawa, Niger, Plateau, and the FCT as those zones, those states that are driving exclusion in those areas. Southeast, Ebonyi State is the only state that's above the regional average. And there's a huge difference, if we can see, compared to some of the other states, almost 20% compared to some of the other states. So a lot of interventions need to go in there. South, we have Bayelsa, Akwa Ibom, and Edo State driving those exclusion in that zone. And finally, we have the Southwest. We have Ondo, Oyo, and Ogun State with exclusion rates that are above the regional average. But we can see for Lagos and Osun states, we can see very, very low levels of exclusion. Just to also point out that Lagos is the only state that has currently achieved about 70% of formal inclusion rate. So not financially now, but formal inclusion, banked and other formal. Lagos has been able to achieve 70% of that.
So now let's sort of think about the work that we still need to do. That is the financially excluded group, people that save at home or resort to family and friends for their financial needs. So they're certainly not monolithic. We have 36.6 million. It's pretty much driven by the female cohort. A third of them are in the 18 to 25 years old group, and kind of makes sense, especially if we think about the proportion of total adults that do not have formal education, and we think about even the requirement to get a job in Nigeria. So, I mean, if you're not going to have regular income, you're most likely to be in the young age group, and that is coming quite clear. And obviously, the rural population is also quite high. We have 78.5 there, and as Tommy has already discussed, the Northwest and Northeast are driving the financially excluded group.
Mr. Segun Akerele, Chairman EFINA Nigeria, and the new CEO, Mr. Esai Deyi, speak on the report findings and the pathway for financial inclusion in Nigeria.
The bank has gone up by about 1.4%. Also, the informal sector has gone up about 4%. And those are the key drivers of inclusion. And we've seen that the level of inclusion has come down by, I think, about 5%. So all in all, for inclusion, it's good, but there's work to be done.
And looking at the next steps, I hear issues around collaboration, I hear issues around regulation. What more are the key issues that should be addressed to ensure that we scale and even hit that target? Because it was 40 million excluded. We've seen some reduction, but we need to hit that target by 2020.
Yes, so as you heard as well during the presentation, there's a lot of opportunity to work with to support innovation, regulation for innovation really, because regulation is quite key, innovation is quite key. So if you can have a good collaboration between the two, look at the informal sector. There's a big number of Nigerians in there. What can we do with that sector for us?
I'd like to speak to the recent growth figure of 1.8%. How would that help to again push the case for driving financial inclusion in the country? Would like to speak to that?
So we've seen that we're out of recession, but however, and we're growing, but the growth is slow, right? So these numbers are quite positive. We hope for more, but again, there's a lot more that we can do in that respect.
So what should we expect in terms of driving this financial inclusion process, which is the mandate of EFINA, under your watch?
Great. First of all, we need to be happy for what we have seen so far today. Many things has been done during the past 2 years. We know we are still far from the target, which is 80% by 2020. Together, EFINA with all the stakeholders, CBN, NCC, PENCOM, NICOM, will put all our resources together to make sure that by 2020, at least we get closer to the target. I know CBN is working. CBN has already issued the PSB, the Payment Service Bank guideline. There's another microfinance, and so many things is happening currently in the industry. This release today gives us the status. Where are we and what needs to be done? And I think the regulators will take all those the figures from this survey to improve policies, to improve our regulations, and also to bring all the stakeholders together to make sure that by 2020 we meet the target.
With the report that 36.8% of the 99.6 million adults in Nigeria are financially excluded, it is clear that regulations that spur innovation and collaboration amongst all key players in the financial services ecosystem will go a long way in leading the nation to attain its financial inclusion 2020 target.